Welcome to Delenta Activate, the podcast that brings you insights and stories from executive coaches and changemakers in the leadership space. I'm your host, Dr. Naeema Pasha from Delenta, and I'm excited to share with you the latest trends, best practices, and innovations in coaching and leadership development. In this podcast, you'll hear from experts who successfully coach leaders and teams to achieve their goals and overcome challenges and transform their organizations. Whether you're a coach, a leader, or someone who wants to grow personally and professionally, this is the podcast for you. So tune in, get inspired, and activate your potential with Delenta Activate. Hello, I'm so glad to be with you, and I'm really even more excited to introduce you to our guest today, Zoran Todorovic. I'm so delighted. Thank you, Zoran, for being with us today.
So pleasure. It's mine. Thank you so much for inviting me.
No, at all. And we'll be talking about the work you do, the organization, things you do. And I'd love to know a bit more about your background. But I'm going to ask this first question because it's something that was burning within me when I was looking at your work and listening to you talk, which is amazing, by the way, if everybody gets a chance to do that. I was looking through the company, TNM Coaching, and your values. And I want to go through this right at the beginning. You've got fun as being the top fun powered by joyful being. It just captured me, and I just wondered if we could start there, if you don't mind. Why is that the top value? And tell me about the thinking behind that.
The reason why the top value came actually from our engagement with our clients. Year after year, we were doing coaching, leadership development engagements, and then we were doing the surveys, and then the clients were buying our service backwards. And I was very curious to see what has actually sustained us as one of the key vendors or key consultant or key coach. And they told us at that moment in time, it's because you're fun. And I was like, what do you mean you're fun? He said, you create these learning experiences when you come to coach and train, when you don't take yourself too seriously. And this was something that we all, myself and my team, did deliberately, not to take ourselves too seriously, not to become this like serious leader and serious coach and serious everything, but to actually engage this joyful state of being and to have fun while learning and growing and leading and developing and coaching. And then this value just dropped in because it was organic for us and for myself and for everybody else in the organization. That's why. And we love upholding it. We love sharing fun experiences and we like being light.
I'll just ask you another question around it because there's two sides. I thought, wow, this is quite incredible. Fun powered by joyful beings. So we look at the joyful beings side of things. There is this whole movement, as you'll know far more better than me, about picking up on ancient things around the purpose of why we're here at Joy, but then coaching being serious because people, team leaders, individuals go into coaching often because there's a serious, quite maybe dark thing that they're looking at. Just wanted to talk me through those two. That's what came to me, and I wondered what you were thinking.
And listen, when we coach others, we get into the shadows, a shadow self, or being able to explore our shadows, being able to explore what is in our subconscious mind, what is not known to us. And in a good coaching and also leadership development trainings will bring those shadows into our attention. And sometimes we can be, surprised what we see, and sometimes it can be painful. Sometimes it can be difficult. Sometimes it can be something that we need to overcome. But I found out when we look into this, from the perspective of joyful state of being, knowing that the shadow can be transformed by us using joy or using unconditional love, then it becomes easier to relate to it. It doesn't become something that, wear us down or bring us down, that we really have to persevere and struggle with. It's something that is in our life as an obstacle for a reason. And here we are to overcome it. And why not have good time while doing it?
I think I've learned something quite profound there. Thank you so much, Zoran, for that. I'm glad I asked you that first of all. So going to you with your incredible background, you call yourself, looking through your profile, coach, a way shower, a strategist. You're an author as well, and a speaker, and also podcast. I saw the skilled on your old podcast, and you talk about through the last 20 years worked with a range of organizations, range of people, and now you're living a life dedicated to developing yourself as well in order to do everything. So it's quite an extraordinary background. And you mentioned as well, and I was looking through this, you used to be a television presenter. Can you tell us, would you mind talking a little bit about that? Because I think
Of course.
Amazing. And
Yeah.
also that kind of transition, into this world.
So, I'm a believer that everybody has a purpose in their life, and that once we align to the purpose, then all the life circumstances do orchestrate to support us to find our purpose. When I started in media, I was quite lost. I didn't know what I'm going to do with my life. I was in a different business positions before that. And then I went aligned to my purpose by working with Tupi Master at that time, who was my coach, guide, mentor. And then next thing that happened is television happened. And I was suddenly on the TV, using my journalistic background and understanding that my key purpose at that moment in time was to activate people by my presence. And one of these mentors kept on saying to me, it's not what you say, it's who you are, the people resonate. It's not the words, or the energy behind your words, it's who you are being in front of the camera. So I really had a lot of fun. But once when I understood that, then I could be really good because I was relaxed. And then through this presenting and being in the media, I was always in inquiry. I was always interviewing people. I was always being curious. And that was a prerequisite, I think, for powerful coaching. Because when you coach somebody or you lead somebody, you do have to be curious about themselves, genuine. Not about saying, how are you doing? Tell me about your life. And you disconnect and think about something else. You really have to care. So that powerful listening, asking questions, being in inquiry, being able to lead the conversation, being able to be in that process of conversing with somebody really helped me to transition into coaching. So then I just started being a coach, and it was amazing extension of my career.
I really, focusing on what you said about curiosity and perhaps creativity as somebody from a media and a thinking kind of role. Curiosity, there's quite a good deal of research about it as being one of the most critical skills for future work as we deal with the robots that are coming in and taking us over or whatever. But having a sense of curiosity, I'm so glad that you brought that out, because without that, it's very hard to progress, I think, into any area. How do you enable people to be curious about their kind of coaching journey?
For me, it's connecting to what Lao Tsui said, the beginner's mind. That's something that is so precious to us throughout our lifetimes, is this resetting and reinventing ourselves. We accumulate so much information through families, educational systems, our work. We begin expert, and then we really get invested to what we know, and we want to be right, right? I know that I have experience, I have education, I have been,
Yeah.
right. And I think that when we get into that space, we get really firm and we close down. And how I empower my clients when I work with them is to go with this notion of opening up, allowing themselves to reset, to let go of what they know, and to open up to be curious about what they don't know in life, to let go of the information they hold dear and near to something new, to reinvent, to recreate. Because when we are on a certain level, we have this neuroplasticity in our brain. It requires curiosity. And if you're not curious, the brain and the synapses get really hard, and it doesn't move and come to the new solutions and new ideas and reset your life. So this is important. And that's why I requested from my client, literally, when I see in the position of stagnant, now is the time not to get old. Now is the time. It's that vital.
I mean, because to go through that process, people must trust you a lot. You must do a lot to enable that trust to happen. There's your identity. I'm a CEO. I'm this. I'm head of marketing and blah, blah. And then you're saying, and I grew up in Germany and running, these kind of things and these kind of quality. You're saying that let's delayer that and get to this who you are. That's getting them to be quite vulnerable. Like, that's quite something, how you do that. Yeah. How is that process?
For me, one of the core coaching competencies is creating the trust and intimacy. And I think you're absolutely right. It requires time. It's not from the get-go. Somebody comes and suddenly they transform. But we begin to create that intimacy and trust, that level of relating when people can be themselves in the coaching space. For that to happen, as me as a coach, my process is that I really deeply care and exercise emotional intelligence to the extent that people feel empathy. They feel compassion. They feel that they're at that moment in time when we have this interaction, they're the most important person in my life at that moment in time. And that undivided attention creates that level of trust and intimacy. And when we have this in any relationship, coaching, manager, employee, collaborator, colleague, us in the podcast, you and I, when we have this deeper level of relating, then we can be vulnerable. And then coach can make requests. And then we can challenge the growth. And then we can share certain observation without being judgmental, without belittling, but by observing and noticing and being aware of it. So I think that trust and intimacy for genuine care, I always use the term unconditional love, even though this term is usually challenging for people to fully accept. And I would say the care, empathy, compassion, and then unconditional love.
Mm. And you talk, so actually I was going to go into ask you a bit more about that, but I think probably good to talk in a bit more detail about T&M coaching. Just tell us, it was established in 1999, and then you've grown it. Just tell us all about that new millennium.
Yeah, a new millennium. It was just a new millennium. It was just about the new millennium. It was like, how are we going to call the company T&M Coaching? The new millennium coaching was too long, so we abbreviated it to T&M Coaching. It started as a life coaching company. We were one of the first one in Europe at the beginning of coaching profession, and coaching was migrating from the United States to Europe. And then very quickly, from being a life coaching company, we moved it to the business, because at that time, coaching was new in business. And it was really lovely to introduce coaching as a core competence when it comes to leadership skill, and also the core competence when it comes to how we relate to people. And we very quickly went into driving different leadership development programs across the world when we were focusing on creating a coaching culture and feedback culture and training leaders to become the best possible leaders they can be. And T&M Coaches, it's an affiliation of different coaches. We are a global organization. We work mostly with corporate clients, big multinational global corporations, and we roll out different leadership development programs, coaching initiatives, but also we focus on talent acceleration competences. So it has been a blast, grew organically, and we were very happy that we were in a position to add value and really be an ambassador for coaching on a global level.
Well, because you've taken it at a time when coaching was very emergent and people were a little bit wary of it. The space was more occupied by therapy to some extent, and coaching coming from that. How did people react to when you started talking about coaching as an idea? It was you talking about purpose, joy, all these things.
Yeah. They asked me, what team do you coach?
Yeah.
The team, what is the sports team? Like, you're a coach, great, but what is the sports? And I said, people, it's about teams, it's about business, it's about performance. It took us time. We did a lot of awareness building sessions, and we will bring people into conversations to really introduce what coaching is, what coaching stands for, from the point of view of life coaching, business coaching, organizational coaching, career coaching, and so on and so forth. But it was a fun time. When you're pioneering sometimes, even though the challenges are tougher, because you end up being in a situation where people don't understand what you want to sell or introduce. They're like, we don't know what you're talking about. But it was also fun, pioneering and being in these conversations with people. And I remember this coaching community in Europe was at that time really small, and we were all interacting, interconnected, and we were with the purpose. We were like with the mission. We will do this, globally in Europe as well. There's so many fun anecdotes about, coaching. And also because I carry Serbian name, because my origin is Serbian, there's a lot of football coaching, tennis coaches, basketball coaches with a similar surname. So they were on me.
So you were going to do that and coach? Yeah. So you talk about this evolutionary approach, and we talked about joy as part of that. Can you just talk through this? So, as often she's listening into this, what is this evolutionary approach to coaching?
Well, I'm ready.
Yeah, go.
You're ready. So coaching, many people, myself and the people in my collaboration, the people in my team, we began seeing that there is a collective pattern, and that a lot of the people, let's say, who come from the organizations into the coaching conversation, they will have the same issues. And the issues will be repetitive. So literally, if you coach one manager, one CEO, or one HR director, or one leader, the story will be different. As I said today, the Netflix, season 1, season 2, season 3,
Yeah.
it will be completely different. They're different characters, different family, but the essence of their struggle was. And then you begin mapping the collective patterns and came to understand that the way forward is not only to coach individual one-on-one basis, but we coach the evolution of human consciousness. So that every time we coach specific individual with that issue, everybody else with that same issue, we coach through them and with them. So there is a specific methodology that we apply when we teach evolutionary coaching. That's once when you clinical client in front of you, they tell you, for example, I struggle with time management. I have too many things to do. I'm overloaded, and you begin coaching them, how to organize their life, how to manage their time. You're not only coaching that individual. Through that individual, you see all other people with the same issue globally. And there are many, many, many. When that will be called field of quantum intelligence and quantum coaching, then through that person you coach everybody, you have more insight, you have more energy. That person doesn't feel alone in that insight, because sometimes people think this is only happening to me. Everybody else has their life sorted. Everybody else had no to manage time. I'm the only one, which is not true. And then the breakthrough shift is much easier because you tap into more energy. And the optimal evolutionary coaching is that once enough people are coached around time management and enough people create the breakthrough that is necessary, then this issue simply disappears from the collective consciousness. And then you look back and say, once upon a time, 20 years ago, people used to struggle with this, and it's not relevant any longer. Why? It's because we managed to transform this pattern in collective. So evolutionary coaching stands for that. It stands when you coach collective, you coach on a bigger scale, and you are consciously working how to evolve humanity to the next level of its own incarnation.
Yeah, well, we had to get ready for that. That was incredible. Do you think with something like evolutionary approach, and you talk about purpose, mission, and I feel, which many organizations are talking about now, purpose-driven business, mission-driven, the value set, it's almost a spiritual wording that businesses use. You can see it in coaching, organizations are using. How real is that, do you think, when organizations use it? This is our purpose. You must align to this. Does it sometimes, because I feel sometimes it doesn't feel real. And sometimes I feel that we start joining these organizations and, we're using the term, we're a family, we're a tribe, we come together, let's all wear the same clothes, kind of like a badge or something. It's got a kind of religious feel to it. And yet, the way an organization operates isn't like that. It has to fulfill other obligations. Q2 forecast is coming up, blah, 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 kind of thing. Well, I really see what you're saying, and I wish it was there wider in organizations, but I kind of think it isn't. What's your comments on that?
Yeah, I'm with you. Some organizations, they use this as a billboard phenomena or something that is, communicated in their strategy communication specialists to attract people because people want to subscribe to the nice values. And sometimes the reality are not there in the organization, is inauthentic. But sometimes we do have organizations who can walk their talk.
Right.
And I feel from my kind of corporate background and working with corporations for more than 25 years right now, I think that we are coming very closer to the moment when the new generation that we call next generation, actually a little bit more uncompromisable when it comes to the organization. And I can see it when I'm talking to younger managers, people in their 20s and 30s. They really mean it. They want, if you say, joy is our value, and we want you to be happy and joyful in life. And then you come up in a miserable organization and somebody is dictating and ruling you, and you're pressed with the deadlines, and you have to deliver on the problem. And there's no joy there. You know what I mean?
No, I agree. I kind of see it as well, and actually done some research around this with this new generation. And I think you're absolutely right. There's an increase in wanting purpose and mission, and a decrease in loyalty. So it's interesting because previous generation, we were very loyal. We had to be, I'm an EMer, I'm going to wear the thing. But this is, no, I am who I am, but I still want the purpose and mission. That's what I think that research is suggesting that as well.
I know, and I've read, thank you so much for doing that research. And I think that other people I'm fascinated by it because I think now is the time on a personal level, we do need to walk our talk. And
Yeah.
if you're unable to, then we need to communicate that as well. Because I spoke with some or millennials that I'm coaching. They said, now I'm leaving. And I said, well, you left third time right now. You don't have any loyalty to this organization. And they say it's because they're not living in integrity, but they're not saying it. If they
Yeah.
said system is struggling, we really want to have this joyful environment, but we all press, how can we do it together? Then
Yeah.
all this will change, right? And they will be much more loyal to that.
Yes, I agree. And, and that's what I'm seeing as well. But going to your work, which is quite, I think, reading your work, hearing you talk, there is a connecting to this greater purpose that we could see. Perhaps if we start changing one person, one group, one team, one organization, the sector, then we move that off this sort of quantum connection you're talking about. And you talk about mega humans. Can you tell us about that? Because I just wanted to ask you a bit more about that. And then,
Again, like you, we are the researchers as well. We learn from our experience. So when we were coaching people, in different organizations, we begin researching what makes people outstanding, what people really, really powerful. What is that creates deeper confidence? What gets us to be comfortable with the unknown? What gets us to be able to be present to ourselves, even if we're struggling, even if you have a horrible day, or even if you have bad results. You know what I mean? What makes us better than what we think we can be? And we understood that when we tap into the energy field that we exist around us, which is what we call quantum field. In our terminology, we call it mega field. In seeing ourselves, not only as human beings with this flesh and brain and heart and body, but we begin understanding that we are more than just human, that we are soul incarnated in this body, in this form. Then we tap into a bigger aspect of ourselves. Can connect to our human genius. This is where the creatives goes. This is where the great sportsmen go when they extraordinary result. This is where the genius is. We all have it inside of ourselves. We're all wired, but we need to tap into it. We need to begin believing it, and we need to open up to connect to that. And once this clicks, then we're capable of extraordinary result. So the mega human comes from that, invitation to people to understand that they're just bigger than just being an ordinary human being. We're all unique, we're all special, we're all important. Each and every of us gives significant value to the collective. Without you, without me, this collective will never be the same. And if we begin owning it, our significance, our importance, our contribution, then we tap into that mega humanness, and then we begin being a bigger player, change maker, that can really evolve our society to the next level.
This is extraordinary, and to be even witnessing you hearing this is quite sub. And I wondered, as we look around the world, you talk about business, I talk about business. We talk about this from a business perspective, helping people in organizations. But it feels like what we also want to do is to take this conversation, for you to lead this conversation wider than that, in society, with governments, and in education. Is that something that you do, or you think about with TNM, or you personally?
Absolutely. And I think about this a lot, but I also bring it in conversation in businesses. I think the businesses, this conversation that you and I have, can be that the business team member or manager, executive, HR person comes and says, we want to have a more happy, productive team. Of course, we can work on a very linear dimension in getting them to understand their values and to create their well-being and to have cohesion of the team. But eventually we will come to the meaning and purpose. Eventually we will come to the space. Why am I doing what am I doing? Why do I work with this company? What is this for me? How can I get satisfaction? How can I align my purpose and my values to the organizational values? And then this conversation becomes really, really relevant now more than ever, because now people are wanting to be in integrity in the organization. They want to align to their values. There's something that is happening in this world right now, which is good. We always spoke about negative things that are going on in the world right now, the wars, the conflict, but there is also goodness and greatness that is going on at the same time. And that goodness and greatness is calling us all to be more authentic, to be more aligned, to be more spiritual, to be more aware, to be more present,
And this
to
is how,
create.
and to create through being curious, as you said at the beginning, to move forward. This is quite profound then, in order that's what we almost maybe return to. Maybe this is our core thing that we were born with, and that, just this is just me thinking now that you're from what you're suggesting. And so this sort of approach, the evolutionary approach that you talk about, is a way, you said, about resetting, reconnecting, so individuals can flourish. But you are talking about this through business, growing this so it influences society to some extent, I feel.
Exactly. We move beyond business because business needs to influence society. And when business influences society, then we create culture. When the culture is present, society transforms. There's an interplay, interaction with all of these elements. And sometimes businesses can be quite in the silo. They just care about profit. But we need
Yeah.
to move into our impact. We need
Yeah.
to move into what we stand for. We need to move into, and when I'm in front of the leaders, then I introduced 7 generations thinking. I tell them, do you know that indigenous tribes, that they make decisions and choices number generations forward? So if I have important choice to make as corporation, let's say to dig something or to exploit something or to disturb the ecosystem of the planet, what will be the income of the generation? How can that impact me, my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, and so on and so forth? And what will be the choice that you will make right now, knowing that you have that impact? Because people don't have that impact, but they do. So when it comes to this transition, as you were saying, from just being a business to impact in society, I think it's super important for businesses to start.
And people are looking at businesses out. I mean, they're influenced by, ESG and investment and so on. So there is that, even though we could say, well, it's still very quantified, it doesn't work quite, there's lots of things around it, greenwashing, whatever. But still, there's that kernel, like, actually, maybe we should look at our impact on the planet. Maybe we should look after how we look after our people. I feel that there's kind of a lot. I'd love your advice for me, but this might be for everyone listening as well, because I think working in this space, and I feel like I'm trying to tread my way, not as brilliant as you, but my own kind of way in this similar way of thinking. But there's so much resistance against this way of thinking. There's a lot of pushback, in social media or government conversations or news, the kind of things that you're saying, or people just going a little bit cynical. How do we progress this in perhaps a way that's more productive? You know what I'm saying? Against all this kind of pushback. How have you done it, and how would you continue doing it?
It's not easy. It's not easy to work to resist that, because we are wired to resist the change. For some reason, I was really researching this, and investigating why is human nature wired to resistant change. I know this for myself. When something needs to change in my relationship, or I get out of the comfort zone, or somebody changed the coffee that I really like in my favorite coffee shop, like, oh my God, this coffee is not right. Somebody gives me the wrong coffee. So there is something really hilarious about us, that we resist the change, and it's our condition. And I think that my take to this, even in the most difficult times, is to see it for what it is. To see that this resistance is real, and not to allow this to dishearten me because I would not get the outcome or confirmation or result that I want. So that would be one thing. And the second thing is to accept it 100%, because I've learned throughout my life and to coach others, the more you're able to accept, the less resistance shows up. And on a certain level, we are not accepting what we see in reality mirrored back in our own personalities. So that means, to translate it, if somebody is resisting something, there's some kind of change that you're fostering, there is resistance inside of us as well. So what I've trained myself to do is to look into my own resistance. What am I resisting at this moment in time? Where am I close to change? How can I work with myself in order for the external reality to dissolve if I don't witness it any longer? You see what I mean? The inside out work.
Yeah, I really, if we can probably come to an end on this, but that's the incredible thing. And if you think about what you said is what we resist. Tell me that sentence again, so we could end with a brilliant thing.
What we resist, we have to transform inside of ourselves, and then resistance disappears.
Yeah, so what we resist, that's the thing. And I remember from my career coaching background, there's something about I'm not sure who was this, is what we fear, we try to conquer. So maybe that's kind of linked. So we have these fears, we're trying to conquer them. And maybe this creates this resistance. Coaches will know this, but what you're talking about is how we do that and understand what we're trying to resist. And that's something I think it's been an amazing thing to finish with. Thank you so much. Zoran, any final kind of like ideas that you can leave us with for coaches coming into this space and your way of thinking? You've blown my mind, though.
Thank you so much. You blow my mind as well. So for me, for the coaches or leaders, whoever listens to this podcast, I would just like to stand a call for action. I think that we live in the most extraordinary times right now. As a coaching community or leadership community or whatever your position is, our job is to stay positive and to find the positive, engage with the reality right now, and to really understand that there's so many good things going on in our life, in our world at this moment in time. Just the other day, I was reading the news from India. I think it was that when one girl was born, they planted, 8,000 trees. And in another case, they planted 8 million trees. There's so many beautiful, wonderful things that are happening around us. So we have to be way showers. We have to be frequency holders. We have to exuberate the positive energy and get humanity into the next level of its own evolution. It's our job, being coach, being leader, being consultant. Besides helping people to resolve their problems, you have to show up in your full capacity. All right, and just do it. Because if you don't, who is? That's my message.
What a message. Zoran Todorovic, this was incredible. I've been moved and I've learned so much from this. I think people listening in, and I know you're an experienced podcaster as well, but for me, this was incredible. There'll be links in the notes, but the work you do at TNM coaching, your thinking, your retreats and everything you do, I'm hoping people will engage even more with them. And what an honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being with me, for inviting me. I'm super grateful. What a wonderful exchange. Thank you.
Thank you.
Powered by Delenta, your all-in-one coaching platform.